YouTube! I am Pinstar, and this is a very special reaction video. So, Timberborn, as you can tell if you've been following my channel, has been featured very heavily on my channel, and will continue to be very heavily featured on my channel. But the devs just dropped a major update on the experimental branch, and I figured, you know what? Let's take a look at all the features, because there's enough things here that this warrants a mixing up a lot of things, and let's just take a little tour and let me lend you my thoughts. This is a reaction video, if you were. So let's go for it, shall we? So our first things here, the main contest here, or rather the Helix Mountain contest. I'm not going to be covering that. I did not participate in that. I had too much on my plate. But let us take a look at what is in this experimental branch. So, new and updated resources. New resources for the game, alternative metal sources, water plants, and also updating existing resources. Alright, so, new resource node, metal deposit. So in addition to having the large structures of human ruins here, we now actually have metal that's properly in the ground, a proper old school mine. And it's an infinite source, so once you tap into these things, you can get them forever, which is pretty nice. It's also, from what I understand later on in the patches, that it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to get them, as it should be, because metal's supposed to be a bit of a pain in the butt. New resource, cattails. Yields cattail roots, can only grow in water. So as we can see in this screenshot here, we're getting not one but two things. The spatterdock is the other new water-based plant. So this allows us to make more efficient use of our waterways. Previously, the only real things that you could do with water, other than, well, drink it, is build things on top of it, sort of like what we were doing with our Blue Lagoon. But now there's actually an alternative use to space in your colony that is filled with water other than drinking it, and also encourages you to keep standing bodies of water around for things other than drinking. So this is going to, we're going to want to designate an area for an aqua farm, because there's some changes that they show a little bit later on that kind of tie into and make us, well, more interested in these other than just for their raw food values. Next new resource, chestnut trees. We have a new species of tree to start building here. These trees with thick trunks grow slowly, but provide your beavers with chestnuts in addition to logs. So yeah, you can actually start harvesting trees for food in addition to logs or instead of logs. There's nothing that says you can't grow a tree and then decide to not cut it down and just continuously harvest it for its producibles rather than its logs in of itself. I do need to take a look at the chestnut tree itself to see what kind of growth thing. Next, I actually have our experimental mode dam colony up in here. So let's take a quick look at the chestnut tree stats, see how those factors in. Alright, so we are here. This is actually our dam save file with our dam colony, but it has been converted over to experimental. Thank you, Timberborn devs, for allowing you to continue playing an old save on the new patch. I know there may be some instabilities with it. I actually haven't played forward with our save like that, but thank you for at least letting me try. That's kind of the reason why you haven't been seeing a lot of City of Gangsters lately, is the patch broke old saves, and that makes me sad. But we're not here about that. So let's take a look here. I know we just started planting all these maples and they're starting to grow, but what if we changed gears? What if we made you a chestnut tree? Okay, so we get 4 logs out of the deal. And it also gives us 3 chestnuts every so often for a 24-day growth cycle. Now that seems like a bad deal when you compare it to maple, but they actually nerfed maple a little bit. They changed maple's growth time to 30 days. In order to get your 8 logs. But as a consolation prize, maple trees now also produce maple syrup. which is another food-based thing. Did they change any others? We got, oh yes, they added pine resin to pine trees. So now pine trees are actually worthwhile to plant here. We're going to need to mix up some of our growth patterns here, and rather than just spamming maple. And I'm really glad they did this. Like, really, really glad. It's one thing to optimize everything. Yeah, birch trees are still birch trees, and they still just have regular logs. Nothing else special to them. But it's one thing to optimize all of your trees, but it's another thing to actually actively want to have a variety of species of trees. Because once you get past what am I looking for? The abundance threshold, essentially, where you basically have as much wood as you could ever want. It only ever makes sense to place maple trees, or at least it used to. Now it makes sense to continuously have a variety of trees up and running, and some of which you might not want to be cutting down for logs. So now that it gives you some competition for the logs, which makes more interesting and strategic decisions. Excellent. All right. Happy about that. All right, let's go back to the patch notes here. Oops. All right. So yeah, pine's also a source of pine resin. Maple, you get maple syrup. All right, new building mine. Those go on those new resource displays. Requires lots of research, 300 logs, 300 treated planks, 600 gears, and 10 workers. Can only be built on top of metal deposits. Yeah, these things are not easy to tap into. Beavers are now able to get infinite metal ore, digging deeper and deeper. The smelter, the metal ore needs to be smelted and turned into metal blocks here. Woodwork shop creates treated planks from planks and pine resin. So we have a new tier of plank here where the plank needs to get further treated to get to become a more advanced form. Adds a new layer of complexity, which makes me happy. Aquatic farmhouse now needed for these. I'm assuming that's what these are. I can think of a couple of places in our place that would benefit from this. Those farmhouses that previously were grabbing potatoes, not the Potatopia, but the potatoes up top, might be a good place. Placeholder for those aquatic farmhouses, since they're so low down to the river. Trapper's Shack. A beaver employed here gathers pine resin and maple syrup from trees in range. You can pick the prioritized good. Excellent. So it's just another flavor of gatherer. And then gatherers themselves can gather chestnuts in addition to blueberries. Nice. That makes me happy. We've implemented the ability to pick different recipes. When I loaded into the game, it did say that a bunch of my buildings needed to have a recipe in here. So yeah, grilled potatoes, grilled chestnuts. So you can't just eat the chestnuts raw. And spatterdock needs to be grilled as well. You can also get another thing for grist mills, wheat flour and cattail flours. And then for the bakery, we can get maple pastries and cattail crackers. So maple pastries, if I remember correctly, were made from wheat flour, but then you also need the maple syrup in there. One complaint, and this is just a little nitpicky complaint on my part. They missed an opportunity to do like pancakes or waffles. I mean, come on, flour, pastries, maybe add in a mixture where you have to mix in water into the flour to make a batter, and then you have to cook it, and then you add the maples and maybe some blueberries. I mean, that would be like the ultimate beaver meal, is to have pancakes and waffles. I even put a post out on the Timberborn subreddit to this thing, that the Iron Teeth should be the waffle people, and the Folktales would be the pancakes types. But still, maple pastries, I'm game for that. I like the extra complexity. Not to mention, going back to our game here, so they added, there's an incentive to actually go through and do all of this. Instead of doing nutrition 1, nutrition 2, they're actually just putting the nutrition and actually just naming the different things. And each of these, the carrots, the grilled potatoes, and the bread all have their, old school effects, but now you can get even more effects. But it behooves you to go into the new foods. Grilled chestnuts, cattail crackers, grilled spatterdock, and maple pastries for some extra bonuses. So keeping your beavers well fed but also diversely fed is very important. So back to here. Water gameplay. Now this is an interesting beast here. We can now pump water up from a lower level to a higher level automatically. You know, no more bucket brigades of beavers to carry water to a higher level. Now, this has some interesting implications because I've seen other YouTubers, and I until the advent of this, I wasn't interested in this, but I've seen other YouTubers do things where they engineer water to be pumped up high, and then the water flows down, and they get basically infinite water wheel power. Even during the dry season, because they just keep circling around. Now you have a way to formally do that. And now this is something that actually needs those new metal blocks and treated planks. So you got to get into high level tech in order to be able to do this. Now the one downside here in terms of converting our save file is that the new maps, if you start a new game, they'll have those metal deposits, but because my map was generated before then, it does not have the underground metal deposits. So I don't actually think in our dam colony we can actually build these things, but everything else is on the table. I checked. It's just these things. So maybe in a different save or maybe in a different file, we'll look into this, or maybe they'll patch it so that the salvaged metal that you can get from those human ruins can be pressed into the blocks, and therefore we can get access to these. Water wheels now have a variable HP horsepower output depending on the current's strength. If you manipulate that correctly, this can result into a higher output. So if you can blast water down a really narrow canal, preferably one that's going downhill, you can make those water wheels turn quite quickly. I haven't tested this yet because I haven't really gone deep into water wheels in my game, but that may be worth experimenting. And water wheels now slightly slow down the water passing, so no more infinite energy generation because you're going to slow the water down. You're going to need some external assistance in the form of gravity. New attractions. We haven't even gotten into the fun category that previously required a lot of horsepower to provide the fun, but now we get into the Lido, which is underwater swimming pools. Just splash around for fun. That's again, just with the crops, it's giving you a reason to use your water surface for something other than water, or rather for drinking. And now we got mud baths. With sort of an off-river thing where you can still start to utilize that, and observatories. These things, I think, it gives you a little bit more supplementary knowledge. Now, one other interesting bit here that I've noticed is that and they don't really expressly spell this out in the patch notes, but I want to point this out because this is fairly important to our society here, our gameplay and our strategy. So if we click on a beaver here, they broke out all the foods, but that kind of holds steady with the way they did foods before. Now, if we go down here to fun, they've actually broken out the new flavors of these. So it's not just fulfill one and make the beavers happy. Each of these is their own flavor with their own benefits. So the carousel is still 15% working speed, but now you can get 10 for the mud bath, 5 for the Lido. So you want all three if you want to max out that bonus. Same with knowledge. Just because the observatory is a thing doesn't make books obsolete. Now, one other interesting thing, and this kind of throws a little monkey wrench into my housing block design, is that the shrub is no longer all you ever need to get into aesthetics. Or rather, there's reasons to have roofs and beaver statues to complement your aesthetic choices because they each have their own working speed buff, whereas the shrub is just a third of that. So no longer will just a lone shrub be good enough to max everybody's aesthetics. We need to keep that in mind. So yeah, that's some extra things. Then the temple is still the temple. We haven't gotten into that yet, but there's still just one temple. That is fine. Now, one other bit of tech here, and this came in a bit of a later patch here. A few other miscellaneous things. Yeah, nerfed maple trees, which is understandable because they now give you a new resource, and they were already fantastic to begin with. And makes it harder to unlock Iron Teeth. That's fine. We already unlocked them anyway. But Iron Teeth play differently enough that it's it's worth it to make you work a little harder for it. Now up here, if we go up here to experimental, oh my God, this engine now generates 400 horsepower up from 200. The engine's now usable. It's actually usable. Like really, really freaking good usable. That makes me so happy because now it becomes a viable alternative. Now you can't just spam this endlessly because they do become log hogs as far as how much they consume. And I don't know if they fixed the bug where it continues consuming wood even if you pause them. But regardless, it now is a viable source because so supposedly it does not consume any more logs. It just doubles its power output. So that makes it so much more useful to you. That makes me happy. It also, they also, buffed the large windmill for the folktales. That's not our thing here, but yeah, each faction's unique power generating building got buffed, probably to help them keep up with the new buffs to the water wheels and the new tech that you can do with water wheels. Otherwise, they just fall off completely. So yeah, that's pretty good. Did they any other thing? Fixed Iron Tea? Yeah, it's just a bug fix. Tweaks to nutrition, so it's possible to satisfy them all. It was probably making them drain too quickly, so you couldn't actually satisfy all of them. Now, if you offer them all, a beaver could conceivably keep themselves topped off on all of them, which would be an interesting way to go, and you can certainly get more well-being points out of the deal. I can see that's why they probably upped the number of well-being points needed to unlock the Iron Teeth, because now there's more categories of well-being, so it's easier to get well-being points. All right. Well, that's it, my friends. That is what we're going here. The game is actually it's on a 10% discount. So if you haven't picked it up yet, consider doing so. And in the future episodes, you will see our dam colony with the new changes. And also for those of you who are commenting about a giant hole in my dam, I found it. I went back in time just a little bit, fixed it. We're good. I'll show that off in the next episode too. So I hope you guys like this little reaction style video. I know this is not my normal fare, and let me know in the comments what you think of this. If you want me to do, these little snippets in between the actual gameplay. I'm not replacing my actual gameplay videos with these, but just, interspersed, give you my insights and opinions about what's coming down the pipeline. Let me know. So until next time, this has been Pinstar signing out. See ya!